The envelope sat on our kitchen table like a bomb waiting to go off. The room was too quiet. No hum of the refrigerator, no traffic noise from outside, just the sound of my own breathing and the tick of the clock on the wall. Each second felt like an eternity. My husband, Deshaun, stared at the envelope, his jaw so tight I could see the muscle jumping. His hands were clenched into fists on the table, knuckles pale. His chest rose and fell in measured breaths, like he was trying to control something inside him that wanted to explode. I watched my hands tremble as they rested in my lap. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of loyalty, of partnership, of building a life together. And it had come down to this: a white envelope with a lab logo in the corner. Our 8-year-old son Jamal was upstairs in his room, playing video games, the sounds of explosions and victory music drifting down through the ceiling. He was completely unaware that his father had just accused me of cheating and demanded proof that he was actually his child. Unaware that his whole world might be about to change. I looked at the man sitting across from me and barely recognized him. This wasn't the Deshaun who used to kiss me goodbye every morning before work, who'd whisper, "Love you, baby," into my neck. This wasn't the man who used to hold my hand when we walked down the street, who'd look at our son like he hung the moon and painted the stars. That man was gone. In his place sat a stranger with cold eyes and a harder mouth. A man who'd chosen his mother's poison over his wife's truth. "Open it," Deshaun said, his voice flat and emotionless. My stomach twisted. "You really think I cheated on you? After everything we've been through together?" "Just open the damn envelope, Keisha." I stared at it. Part of me wanted to throw it in his face. Part of me wanted to walk out and never come back. But mostly, I was just tired. Tired of defending myself. Tired of being treated like a criminal in my own home. If this envelope could save my marriage, I'd open it. If it would destroy what was left of us, then maybe that was what needed to happen. I reached for it with shaking hands. "Wait," Deshaun said suddenly. I looked up. For just a second, I saw something flicker across his face. Fear, maybe, or doubt. "What if—" He swallowed hard. "What if it's not what we think?" "You mean, what if you've been wrong this whole time?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "What if you've spent the last 3 months accusing me of something I didn't do? What if you've destroyed our marriage for nothing?" He flinched. "I just need to know." "Then let's know." I tore open the envelope. And what was inside changed everything. But not in the way either of us expected. My name is Keisha Thompson, and I'm 38 years old. I work as a nurse at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, mostly night shifts in the emergency room. It's hard work, long hours, difficult patients, life and death situations, but I love it. I love helping people. I love being the calm in someone else's storm. Before all this happened, I thought I had a good life, a solid marriage, a beautiful son, a job I was proud of, a house in a decent neighborhood in East Point. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Deshaun and I met 12 years ago at a 4th of July barbecue in Piedmont Park. I was there with my girls from nursing school. He was there with his boys from his construction company. Someone introduced us, and we just clicked. He made me laugh. That was the first thing I noticed about him. He had this easy smile and this way of telling stories that made everything sound like an adventure. He told me about the time he and his crew had accidentally demolished the wrong wall in a renovation project. And somehow he made it sound hilarious instead of horrifying. "So there we are," he'd said, staring at this giant hole where a load-bearing wall used to be, and my boss is turning purple, and I'm thinking, well, at least we made it an open concept floor plan? I'd laughed so hard I snorted, which made him laugh, and by the end of the night, we'd exchanged numbers. By the end of the month, we were inseparable. I remember our first real date. He took me to this little soul food spot in West End, Velma's Kitchen, a place that had been there for 40 years. The mac and cheese was so good it made me want to cry. My mama used to bring me here when I was little, he'd said, after church on Sundays. It was our special thing. Your mama sounds nice. His expression had shifted slightly. She's particular about a lot of things. Particular how? She has opinions about how I should live my life, who I should date, what kind of woman would make a good wife. And what kind of woman is that? He'd looked at me seriously. The kind who laughs at my stupid jokes and orders sweet tea without asking if they have any. I'd smiled. Well, lucky for you, I'm that kind of woman. We'd been together ever since. Our first real fight happened about 6 months in. Deshaun had made plans for us to go to his mother's house for dinner without asking me first. I'd had a double shift at the hospital and was exhausted, and when he told me we had to be there in an hour, I'd lost it. You made plans for me without asking? It's just dinner with my mama. I don't care if it's dinner with the president. You don't make decisions for me. We're partners. You ask first. He'd been surprised by my anger, but he'd also apologized. You're right. I should have asked. I'm sorry. Thank you. But can we please still go? She made her famous fried chicken. I'd groaned. Fine, but you owe me. I'll rub your feet later. Deal. That was us. We fought, we made up, we compromised. We were a team. Or at least, we used to be. We got married 2 years after we met, in a small ceremony at New Hope Baptist Church. My mama cried through the whole thing, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Deshaun's mother, Phyllis, sat in the front row with her lips pressed together in a tight line, her smile more forced than genuine. I'd noticed it even then, the way she looked at me, like I wasn't quite good enough, like I was taking her son away from her. But Deshaun loved me, and I loved him, and I'd thought that was enough. Jamal was born a year after we got married. The pregnancy was hard, morning sickness that lasted all day, swollen ankles, backaches that made it hard to work. But the moment they placed that baby in my arms, 8 pounds and 6 ounces of perfect, I forgot all of it. Deshaun had cried when he held his son for the first time, actually cried, tears streaming down his face as he touched Jamal's tiny fingers. He's perfect, he'd whispered. We made something perfect. Yeah, we did. He'd looked at me with so much love it took my breath away. Thank you. For him. For everything. We're a family now. Yeah, he'd said, kissing my forehead. We are. That memory felt like it belonged to different people now. A different Deshaun. A different us. Back then, in those early years, we'd had little rituals. Every morning, he'd make my coffee exactly how I liked it. 2 sugars, a splash of cream. Every night, we'd sit together after Jamal went to sleep and talk about our days. He'd tell me about the construction site drama. I'd tell him about the craziness in the ER. We had inside jokes. He'd say, "You know what I'm saying?" And I'd respond, "I know exactly what you're saying," in this exaggerated voice that always made him laugh. When we were out in public and one of us wanted to leave, we'd give each other the look. Eyebrows raised, slight nod toward the door. He used to carry me to bed when I fell asleep on the couch after a long shift. Used to leave little notes in my lunch bag. Used to kiss me goodbye every single morning, without fail, even when we'd argued the night before. When did that stop? When did he stop seeing me as his partner and start seeing me as a suspect? I know exactly when. Thanksgiving, 3 months ago. Thanksgiving at Phyllis's house was always an ordeal. Her house in College Park was immaculate. Plastic covers on the furniture, family photos arranged just so on the mantel, everything in its designated place. It smelled like pine sol and fried turkey, and the thermostat was always set to exactly 72 degrees. We'd driven over that afternoon, me, Deshawn, and Jamal. I'd brought a sweet potato casserole I'd made that morning, even though Phyllis always found something to criticize about it. "You used marshmallows?" she'd say. We usually do a pecan topping in our family." This year was no different. Deshawn's sister Tanisha was already there with her husband, Marcus. She greeted us with hugs that felt perfunctory, her eyes already scanning me up and down, noting my outfit, my hair, my everything. "Hey, Keisha," she said. "You look comfortable." Translation: "You look like you didn't try hard enough." "Thanks," I said, refusing to take the bait. Phyllis appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "You're late." "Traffic was bad," Deshawn said, kissing her cheek. She looked at the casserole in my hands. "You didn't need to bring anything. I made plenty." "I wanted to contribute." "Well, I suppose we can find room for it." She took the dish like it might be contaminated. Dinner was tense from the start. We sat around Phyllis's dining room table. The good china only came out for holidays, and said grace. Phyllis thanked God for family, for blessings, for keeping us all together, despite our challenges. I wasn't sure what challenges she meant, but I had a feeling she was talking about me. The food was good. Phyllis was an excellent cook. Fried turkey, collard greens with ham hocks, macaroni and cheese that was perfectly creamy, cornbread that melted in your mouth. We ate and made small talk about work, about Jamal's school, about the weather. And then Phyllis dropped the bomb. "Jamal, come sit by Grandma," she said, patting the chair next to her. He got up obediently and moved. She put her arm around him, studying his face. "You know, you look more like your mother every day." "Thank you," I said carefully. "I'm just saying." She looked around the table at Deshawn, at Tanisha, at Marcus. "Look at all of us. We all have that Thompson nose, those Thompson eyes, strong family features. But Jamal," she tilted her head, "he looks different." The table went quiet. "What are you trying to say, Mama?" Deshawn asked, his voice low. "I'm not trying to say anything, baby. I'm just making an observation. Sometimes children don't look like one side of the family at all. Sometimes they take after—" She paused meaningfully. "Someone else entirely." My stomach dropped. "Phyllis, some women get pregnant too easily," she continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "And some shouldn't get pregnant at all. It makes you wonder about God's plan, doesn't it?" "Mama, that's enough," Deshawn said, but his voice lacked conviction. I saw it then, the moment she got to him. The way his eyes shifted to Jamal, really looking at him, comparing features. the way doubt crept across his face like a shadow. "I'm just concerned about my son," Phyllis said sweetly. "That's all. A mother worries." "Let's change the subject," Marcus said uncomfortably. But the damage was done. I could feel it in the air, thick and poisonous. The rest of the meal passed in strained silence. Tanisha kept looking at me with this knowing smirk, like she and Phyllis had shared some private joke at my expense. Deshaun wouldn't meet my eyes. Jamal, bless him, just kept eating his mac and cheese, oblivious. When we got home that night, I tried to talk to Deshaun about it. "Your mother was out of line tonight." "She was just talking." "She was implying that Jamal isn't yours." "She didn't say that." "She didn't have to. That's what she meant, and you know it." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Is he?" My blood ran cold. "Is he what? Is Jamal mine?" I stared at my husband, the man I'd been faithful to for 12 years, the man I'd built a life with, the man I'd given a son, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "How dare you?" I whispered. "I'm just asking." "No, you don't get to just ask. You don't get to doubt me because your mother planted poison in your head." "I'm not doubting you." "Yes, you are. That's exactly what you're doing." He ran his hands over his face. "I don't want to fight." "Then believe me. Believe your wife when she tells you the truth." "I do believe you." But I could hear the lie in his voice. And that night, for the first time in 10 years, we went to bed without saying, "I love you." That night changed everything. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, while Deshaun lay on his side with his back to me. The space between us felt like a canyon. I reached out to touch his shoulder. "Deshaun?" He flinched away, actually flinched, like my touch burned him. "I'm tired," he said. "Let's just sleep." But neither of us slept. I could tell from his breathing that he was awake, lying there in the dark, probably thinking about what his mother had said, probably looking at our son's features in his mind and comparing them to his own. I wanted to scream, wanted to shake him, wanted to make him see that this was exactly what Phyllis wanted, to create doubt, to drive a wedge between us, to destroy what we'd built. But I just lay there in the cold silence, feeling our marriage crack apart one breath at a time. This was the first night he didn't hold me. The first night we didn't say goodnight. The first night I felt truly alone in my own bed. I didn't know it then, but it was also the beginning of the end of who we used to be. The next few weeks were torture. Deshaun started watching Jamal differently, studying him. I'd catch him staring at our son during dinner, comparing Jamal's nose to his own, looking at the shape of his eyes, the curve of his mouth. And the more he looked, the more he convinced himself there were differences. "His ears are different from mine," he said one evening, out of nowhere. "He's 8 years old. He's still growing. But they're shaped differently. Look at them." "Deshaun, he's your son. He looks like both of us." "Does he, though?" I wanted to throw something, wanted to cry. Instead, I just walked away. He started coming home later from work, started making excuses about why he couldn't make it to Jamal's basketball games, started sleeping on the couch some nights, claiming his back hurt and the firmer surface was better. The man who used to make my coffee stopped making it. The man who used to kiss me goodbye just left. The man who used to look at me like I was his whole world now looked at me like I was a stranger. And through it all, Jamal knew something was wrong. One evening, about a month after Thanksgiving, I was helping him with his homework at the kitchen table. Math problems about fractions that he was struggling with. "Mama?" he said quietly. "Yeah, baby?" "Is Daddy mad at me?" My heart broke. "No, honey. Why would you think that?" "He doesn't play with me anymore. He doesn't come to my games. He looks at me weird. He's just been stressed with work. Is it because Grandma said I don't look like him?" Oh, God. He'd heard. He'd heard Phyllis's poison, and now he was internalizing it. "Jamal, listen to me." I turned his chair so he was facing me. "You are your father's son. There is no question about that. And if Daddy's acting different, it's not because of you. It's because he's dealing with some grown-up stuff that has nothing to do with you." "But Grandma said—" Grandma was wrong. And sometimes grown-ups say things they shouldn't. But you are perfect exactly as you are. You hear me? He nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes, the same doubt that was eating away at his father. That night, I tried to talk to Deshawn about it. "Jamal thinks you're mad at him." "I'm not mad at him." "Then why are you treating him like a stranger?" "I'm not." "Yes, you are. You barely look at him. You don't play with him anymore. He asked me if it's because he doesn't look like you." Deshawn's face crumpled. "God, I don't want to hurt him." "Then stop. Stop letting your mother's poison eat away at you. Stop doubting me. Stop doubting him." "I'm trying. Try harder." But he didn't. If anything, he got worse. And then, 2 weeks ago, he came home from his mother's house and dropped the bomb. "I want a DNA test." The day we did the test was one of the worst days of my life. Deshawn insisted on doing it at his mother's house, with his whole family there as witnesses. "I want to make sure it's done right," he said when I protested. "No switching samples or anything." "You think I would tamper with a DNA test?" I was so angry I was shaking. "You think I'm that kind of person?" "I don't know what kind of person you are anymore," he said coldly. So we went. Me, Deshawn, and Jamal, who was confused about why we were going to Grandma's house on a random Tuesday afternoon when he had basketball practice. "Why are we going to practice?" he asked from the back seat. "We have something important to do first," Deshawn said. "What?" "You'll see." The drive was silent. 20 minutes of thick, suffocating tension, while I stared out the window and tried not to cry. Phyllis answered the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Come in. Tanisha's already here." Of course she was. This was a show. A public humiliation. The living room felt like a courtroom. Tanisha sat on the couch with her arms crossed, her expression smug. Phyllis sat in her armchair like a judge presiding over a trial. Deshawn stood near the window, arms folded, not looking at me. "Mama, what's going on?" Jamal asked, his voice small. He could feel the tension, even if he didn't understand it. "Nothing, baby," I lied, forcing a smile. "We're just doing a little science project. It's fun." The DNA test kit was already laid out on the coffee table. Sterile swabs in plastic packaging, collection tubes, instructions printed out. "I'll do it," Phyllis announced, picking up the swabs like she had any right to. "To make sure there's no funny business." "Funny business?" I repeated, my voice sharp. "What exactly are you accusing me of?" "I'm not accusing you of anything, honey," Phyllis said, with that false sweetness. I'm just making sure everything is done properly, for my son's peace of mind. For your peace of mind, you mean? Keisha, Deshawn warned, let her do it. So I sat there, in my mother-in-law's living room, on her plastic-covered couch that crinkled every time I moved, and watched her swab the inside of my son's cheek. Open wide, Jamal, she cooed. That's it. Good boy. Jamal looked at me, confusion and fear in his eyes. Mama, what is this for? It's okay, baby. Just a test. It won't hurt. But why? Shh. We'll explain later. Phyllis sealed the swab in a tube with practiced efficiency. Then she turned to Deshawn. Now yours, baby. He opened his mouth. She swabbed, sealed it. There, she said, holding up both tubes with satisfaction. Now we'll know the truth. We already know the truth, I said, standing up. My legs were shaking, but I forced them to hold me. But apparently my word isn't good enough. It's not about your word, Phyllis said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. It's about proof. Truth always comes out eventually, doesn't it? The way she said it, with that knowing look, that slight smile, it felt like a threat. Tanisha spoke up from the couch. Interesting how defensive she's being, don't you think? I'm not being defensive, I shot back. I'm being rightfully angry that my husband's family is treating me like a criminal. If you haven't done anything wrong, you shouldn't be worried, Phyllis said smoothly. I'm not worried about the results. I'm worried about what this says about my marriage, about trust, about believing your partner when they tell you the truth. Phyllis stood up, walked to the sink, and washed her hands thoroughly. The whole time she looked at me over her shoulder with this expression of superiority, like she'd already won. Come on, Jamal, I said, taking my son's hand. We're leaving. But Mama, now. I walked out of that house with my head high, even though inside I was screaming. Jamal was quiet in the car, sensing something was very wrong. Mama, am I in trouble? No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. Then why does everyone seem mad? Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and right now, Daddy's making a big one. That night, when Deshawn came home, he went straight to the couch without saying a word. Jamal had cried himself to sleep, asking me over and over why Daddy was acting weird, and I had no answer that wouldn't break his heart even more. The wait for the results was torture. The kit said 3 to 5 business days. Every morning I checked the mailbox. Every evening I checked again. And every day, nothing. Deshawn barely spoke to me during that time. He'd come home from work, shower, eat dinner in silence, and then retreat to the couch. The few times we did speak, it was about logistics. Who was picking up Jamal from school, what bills needed to be paid, when the trash needed to go out. We'd become roommates, strangers sharing a space. I couldn't sleep. Would lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our relationship, trying to figure out where it had all gone wrong. Was it something I'd done? Something I'd said? Had I worked too many night shifts? Spent too much time away? No. I knew the answer. It was Phyllis. It had always been Phyllis. But Deshawn had chosen to believe her over me. And that was what I couldn't forgive. One night, around 2 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. On my way back to bed, I passed the living room and saw Deshawn sitting on the couch in the dark, just staring at the wall. Can't sleep? I asked. He jumped slightly. No. Me neither. A long pause. Then, I'm sorry. for all of this. Are you? Because it feels like you've already decided I'm guilty. I haven't decided anything. I need to know. You do know, because I've told you, over and over. But it's not enough. Your mama is manipulating you, and you're letting her. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes. Fear. He was scared. What are you so afraid of? I asked softly. That everything I thought I knew is a lie, he whispered. I sat down on the other end of the couch, keeping distance between us. Why would you think that? Because if you could cheat on me and I didn't know, if Jamal isn't mine and I've been raising another man's child, then I don't know anything. About you, about us, about who I am. Deshawn, I have never cheated on you. I want to believe that. Then believe it. Choose to believe me. Choose your wife over your mother's poison. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You either trust me or you don't. He was quiet for a long time. I'm trying to. Well, try harder, because this is destroying us. I went back to bed alone, and he stayed on that couch, in the dark, wrestling with demons his mother had planted in his head. My coworkers at the hospital noticed something was wrong. Lisa cornered me in the break room one night during a shift. Girl, what's going on? You look like you haven't slept in days. I broke down and told her everything. The accusation, the test, the humiliation at Phyllis's house. He did what? Lisa's eyes went wide. He thinks I cheated because his mother told him to think that. That's insane. You're like the most loyal person I know. You literally turned down that fine doctor from cardiology who was hitting on you last month. Apparently, loyalty doesn't matter when your mother-in-law is whispering poison. When do you get the results? Any day now. And when you do? When it proves Jamal is his son? I don't know if I can forgive this, Lisa. Even if the test proves me right. You shouldn't have to, she said firmly. He accused you of the worst possible betrayal. He humiliated you. Even if the test proves you right, he should be on his knees begging forgiveness. Yeah, I said quietly. He should. But I wasn't sure he would be. One evening, 3 days after the test, I was standing in our bathroom getting ready for a night shift when I caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked exhausted. Dark circles under my eyes, hair that needed to be washed, scrubs that hung a little looser because I'd lost weight from stress. But more than that, I looked defeated, sad, like someone who'd lost something precious and didn't know how to get it back. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I looked at myself and felt unloved. Not unlovable, unloved. By the man who'd promised to love me for better or worse, who'd vowed to trust me, honor me, cherish me. I touched my reflection in the mirror, my fingertips cold against the glass. How did my life turn into this? I whispered to my own image. No answer came. On the 5th business day, the envelope arrived. I was at work when it came. Deshawn texted me a photo of it sitting on the kitchen table. Results are here, the text said. Come home. My hands shook so badly I could barely type a response. I'm working until 7. I'll wait. So I worked my entire shift with that envelope haunting me, Every patient I saw, every IV I started, every chart I documented. All of it was background noise to the knowledge that my marriage's fate was sitting in a white envelope on my kitchen table. Lisa noticed. "You okay?" The results came. And? I haven't opened them yet. Deshawn wants us to do it together. You want me to come with you? For moral support? No. This is something I have to do alone. When my shift ended, I sat in my car in the hospital parking garage for 10 minutes, trying to gather the courage to drive home. What if he didn't apologize? What if the test proved Jamal was his son, and Deshawn just said, okay, and moved on? Like he hadn't just destroyed my trust. Like he hadn't accused me of something unforgivable. Could I stay with him after this? Could I look at him and not remember the way he'd looked at me with suspicion? The way he'd chosen his mother over me? I didn't know. But I had to find out. When I walked through the front door, Deshawn was sitting at the kitchen table. The envelope was in front of him, still sealed. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "Where's Jamal?" I asked. "At my mama's house." His voice was flat. "I wanted us to do this alone." Of course Jamal was at Phyllis's house. Of course Deshawn's mother was still involved, even now. I sat down across from him, looked at the envelope, looked at my husband. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes to match mine. Stubble on his jaw like he hadn't shaved in days. His construction work clothes were dirty, and he smelled like sawdust and sweat. "Before we open this," I said quietly, "I need you to know something." "What?" "No matter what this says, you broke my heart. You accused me of the worst possible betrayal. You made me prove my loyalty to you in front of your entire family, and I don't know if I can forgive that." His jaw clenched. "I know." "Do you? Do you understand that even if this test proves I've been telling the truth all along, things are never going to be the same between us?" "I do." "Then why did you do it? Why did you let your mother get inside your head? Why wasn't my word enough?" He was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "Because I'm scared. I've been scared for years. Scared that you'd leave me, that you'd realize you're too good for me, that someone better would come along and you'd—" "That's your insecurity talking, not reality. I chose you, Deshawn. I married you. I had a child with you. I've been faithful to you for 12 years, but it wasn't enough." "I know." "My word should have been enough." "I know." "So why wasn't it?" He looked at me with desperate eyes. "Because my mama made it sound so real. The things she said about Jamal not looking like me, about you working night shifts, about how easy it would be for you two. And I started seeing it, started believing it. And once the doubt was there, I couldn't make it go away. So you let her destroy us. I'm sorry." His voice broke. "I'm so fucking sorry, Keisha, for all of it." I felt tears on my cheeks, but didn't wipe them away. Sorry doesn't fix what you broke. "I know, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn back your trust, if you'll let me." "We'll see." He picked up the envelope. His hands were shaking. "Should I open it?" "Yes, let's get this over with." He tore it open, pulled out the papers inside. I watched his face as he read, watched his eyes scan the page, watched confusion flash across his features, watched him read something once, then twice, then a third time like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "What does it say?" I asked, even though I already knew. "He's mine." His voice was barely a whisper. 99.9% match. "Jamal is my son." "I know." "Keisha." He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have doubted you. I shouldn't have—" "No, you shouldn't have. I was wrong. About everything. You were telling the truth, and yes, I was." He started to stand, like he was going to come around the table to me, but I held up my hand. "Don't. Keisha, please. I need to go get our son from your mother's house. And then I need some time to think about whether or not this marriage is worth saving." "What? No, we can—" "I'm not leaving. Not yet. But I need space. And you need to deal with your mother. Really deal with her. Because she can't be in our lives anymore." "I'll talk to her." "No," I said firmly. "You'll confront her. And you'll get answers. Because there's something in those results. Something that made her face go pale when I mentioned it to her." He looked down at the papers again, flipping through pages he'd skipped. "What are you talking about?" "Page 3, I said. "Look at page 3. He turned the pages, found page 3, started reading, and I watched his face go white. "This says—" He looked up at me, his eyes wide with shock. "This says I'm not. This says I don't share DNA with my mother." "I know." "But that's impossible. Unless—" His hands started to shake. "Unless I'm not her biological son." "Yeah. I'm adopted." He said it like he was testing out the words, seeing if they felt real. "I'm adopted, and she never told me." He stood up so fast his chair fell backward, started pacing. His breathing was coming faster, shorter. "Deshawn, my whole life." His voice was rising. "My whole life, she never told me. She let me believe I was her biological son, that I had Thompson blood, that—" He grabbed the edge of the counter, his knuckles white. "Oh, God, everything I thought I knew about myself is a lie." "I know this is a lot." "A lot?" He laughed, but it was harsh and broken. "It's not a lot, Keisha. It's everything. It's my entire identity. Who am I if I'm not who I thought I was?" I stood up, moved toward him carefully. "You're still you. You're still Deshawn. You're still Jamal's father. You're still the man I married. But I'm not the man you thought you married. I'm not a Thompson. I'm not—" His breath hitched. "I don't even know my medical history. What if Jamal inherited something from my real parents? What if—" He couldn't finish, just slid down the cabinet until he was sitting on the kitchen floor, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. I'd never seen him break like this. Not when his father died. Not when we lost our first pregnancy. Not ever. I sat down on the floor next to him. Didn't touch him. Wasn't ready for that yet. But sat close enough that he knew I was there. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I know this is devastating." "She did this on purpose," he said after a moment, his voice muffled by his hands. "The DNA test. She pushed for it because she knew what it would reveal. And she was willing to let me destroy my marriage to keep her secret." "Yes." He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "Oh God, Keisha, what have I done? I accused you of cheating. I humiliated you. I let my mother manipulate me into almost losing you. And all of it was because she was projecting her own lies onto you." "I know." "How can you even look at me? How can you stand to be in the same room with me?" "Because despite everything, I still love you. But love isn't enough right now. Trust is what matters. And you destroyed that." I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." Being sorry isn't enough either. He wiped his face with his hands. What can I do? Tell me what to do to fix this. I don't know if you can fix it. You broke something fundamental, and I don't know if it can be repaired. Please, he whispered, please don't give up on us. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, cut my mother out of my life, whatever you need. I looked at my husband, this broken, devastated man who'd hurt me so badly, and felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the possibility of it. I need time, I said, and I need you to deal with your mother. Really deal with her, because she can't be in our lives anymore, not after what she did to both of us. I'll talk to her. No, you'll confront her, tonight, and you'll demand the truth, all of it. Why she never told you, why she did this to us, everything. He nodded. Okay, I will. And one more thing. What? You sleep on that couch for as long as I say. You earn your way back into our bedroom, into my life, into my trust. You understand? I understand. I drove to Phyllis's house alone. Deshawn had wanted to come, but I'd stopped him. I need to do this myself first, I'd said. Then you can have your turn. The drive took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of white-hot rage building in my chest with every mile. I parked in front of her neat little house with its perfect lawn and its perfect flowers and its perfect lie of a life. Jamal was probably inside, watching TV or playing video games, completely unaware of the bomb that was about to go off. I knocked on the door, hard. Phyllis answered with that same fake smile. Keisha, what a surprise. I wasn't expecting. Where's Jamal? He's in the den watching. Get him. Now. Something in my tone made her step back. Is something wrong? You tell me. Is there something wrong, Phyllis? Her face went carefully blank. I don't know what you're talking about. The DNA test came back. I watched her face closely, saw the momentary flash of panic before she controlled it. Well, that's wonderful, she said, her voice too bright. And Jamal is Deshawn's son, just like I told you he was, just like I've been telling everyone. I never doubted. Yes, you did. You doubted loudly and publicly, and you destroyed my marriage to protect your own secret. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I stepped closer, and she actually stumbled backward, nearly tripping over her own doormat. The test showed more than just paternity. It showed genetic markers, family connections. I was bluffing, improvising, but her reaction told me I was onto something. Want to tell me what those markers revealed, Phyllis? Want to tell me why you were so desperate to avoid a DNA test that you were willing to sacrifice your son's marriage? Her hand flew to her chest. For a moment, I thought she might actually collapse. You can't. I can, and I did. We know, Phyllis. We know Deshawn is adopted. We know you lied to him for 38 years. She grabbed the doorframe to steady herself. Her face had gone gray. Get my son, I said quietly, and then pack a bag, because you won't be seeing him again for a very long time. You can't keep him from me. Watch me. You tried to destroy my family. You poisoned my husband against me. You humiliated me. You traumatized my child, all to protect your lie. I stepped even closer until we were almost nose to nose. You're done, Phyllis. Done manipulating, done controlling, done hurting people to make yourself feel better. Tears started streaming down her face. I was protecting him. No, you were protecting yourself. From shame, from judgment, from having to admit you couldn't have biological children. And you know what? I might have felt sorry for you if you hadn't tried to destroy my marriage to keep your secret. I didn't mean for it to go that far, but it did. You pushed and pushed until Deshaun demanded a DNA test, until he accused me of cheating, until he humiliated me in front of you and Tanisha. And all of it was because you were too much of a coward to tell your son the truth. She was sobbing now, mascara running down her face. I'm sorry. It's too late for sorry. Now get my son. She disappeared into the house and came back a minute later with Jamal. He looked confused and a little scared. Mama? What's wrong? Nothing, baby. We're going home. But Grandma said I could stay for dinner. Change of plans. Come on. As we walked to the car, Phyllis called out from the doorway. Keisha, please, can we talk about this? I turned back. No, not tonight, not tomorrow, maybe not ever. You wanted to know the truth? Well, now everyone knows it, and you're going to have to live with the consequences. I buckled Jamal into the back seat and drove away without looking back. In the rearview mirror, I could see Phyllis still standing in her doorway, crying. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sympathy, just exhaustion. When we got home, Deshaun was still sitting on the kitchen floor where I'd left him. He looked up when we walked in, his eyes red and swollen. Hey, champ, he said to Jamal, forcing a smile. Dad, are you okay? Yeah, buddy, I'm okay. Just a hard day. Why were you on the floor? Sometimes grown-ups need to sit on floors. It helps us think. Jamal looked between us, clearly not buying it, but he didn't push. Can I go play video games? Sure, baby, I said. Go ahead. After he was upstairs, Deshaun looked at me. What happened? I told her we know. About the adoption. About the lies. How did she react? She cried, tried to defend herself, failed spectacularly. He nodded slowly. I need to talk to her, tonight, get the full story. Are you ready for that? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Deshaun went to his mother's house alone. He was gone for 3 hours. When he came back, his face was ashen and his eyes were hollow. Tell me, I said. We sat in the living room, me on the couch, him in the chair across from me, keeping distance, still not ready to be close. And he told me everything. She and my dad, my adoptive dad, they tried for years to have kids, he began, his voice rough. Fertility treatments, miscarriages, multiple rounds of IVF. Nothing worked. And every failed pregnancy, every negative test, she felt more and more like a failure. That must have been hard, I said carefully. It was. But instead of being honest about it, instead of getting help, she internalized it, convinced herself that if people knew she couldn't have biological children, they'd see her as less than, as broken. So they adopted. Yeah, through a private agency. A newborn whose birth mother was young, white, couldn't keep him. They took me home and told everyone I was their biological son, told their families, their friends, their church. Your father went along with this? She says he wanted to tell me when I turned 18, that we'd have a conversation about it. But she talked him out of it, said it would just confuse me, that I was already a Thompson and that's all that mattered. And then he died. And then he died when I was 15. So there was no one left to push her to tell the truth. What about Tanisha? She's adopted too. Different birth parents. They got her 2 years after me. She doesn't know yet. He ran his hands over his face. My whole family is built on lies. Why now? Why push for the DNA test if she knew what it would reveal? She panicked. When I mentioned wanting to do the test, she knew it would show she wasn't my biological mother. So she decided to redirect my attention. Make it about your loyalty instead of her honesty. She started planting seeds of doubt about you and Jamal, hoping I'd either drop the idea or that the test would somehow not reveal her secret. She was willing to destroy your marriage to protect her lie. Yes, and when I confronted her about it, you know what she said? What? She said she was afraid I'd leave her if I knew the truth, that I'd go looking for my birth mother and forget all about her, that she'd lose me. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy. That's sad. It is, but it doesn't excuse what she did. She hurt you. She hurt Jamal. She almost destroyed us, all because she was too afraid to be honest. We sat in silence for a moment. What are you going to do? I asked. I told her she's not welcome in our house, not around Jamal, not until she gets serious help and makes serious amends, and maybe not even then. How did she take that? She cried, begged, promised to change, but I've heard those promises before. So have I. He looked at me with desperate eyes. Keisha, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but please, please don't give up on us. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut my mother out completely. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice when you married me. Just, please, don't give up. I looked at this broken man sitting across from me, this man who'd hurt me so badly, who'd doubted me, who'd chosen his mother's poison over my truth. But also this man who'd loved me once, who'd made me laugh, who'd given me a son, who'd built a life with me. Could we come back from this? Could trust be rebuilt? I didn't know, but maybe it was worth trying. Okay, I said quietly. Okay? Okay, I'll try, but on my terms, with my conditions. Anything. Therapy. Individual for you, couples for us. No excuses, no missing sessions. Done. Your mother stays away from our family until I say otherwise, and even then, only supervised visits. Agreed. You sleep on that couch until I'm ready to let you back in our bed. Could be weeks, could be months. I understand. And you work every single day to show me that you've changed, that you choose me, that your mother doesn't have power over you anymore. I will. I promise. We'll see. The healing process was slow and painful. Deshawn started individual therapy with Dr. Marcus Chen, a therapist who specialized in identity issues and adoption trauma. Twice a week, he'd come home from sessions looking emotionally wrung out, but also lighter somehow, like he was finally processing things he'd been carrying for years without knowing it. We started couples therapy with Dr. Alicia Washington, a Black woman in her 50s who took no nonsense from either of us. Our first session was brutal. Tell me what brought you here, Dr. Washington said, settling into her chair and looking between us. Deshawn looked at me. I looked at the floor. My husband accused me of cheating, I finally said. He demanded a DNA test for our son. He humiliated me in front of his family, all because his mother told him to. And was the child his biologically? Dr. Washington asked Deshawn. Yes. So your wife was telling the truth the entire time? Yes. And yet you chose to believe your mother over your wife of 10 years? Yes. Why? Deshawn was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because I was scared. Scared that she'd leave me, that I wasn't good enough for her, that someone better would come along and she'd realize she made a mistake marrying me. And where do you think those fears came from? I don't know. I've always felt like I don't quite fit, like I'm pretending to be something I'm not. Which makes sense now, Dr. Washington said gently, given that you recently discovered you're adopted. Your whole sense of identity has been built on a lie. So when your mother planted seeds of doubt about your wife, about your son, those doubts fed into deeper fears you've been carrying your whole life. Deshawn's face crumpled. I never thought about it that way. Well, start thinking about it. Because your mother's manipulation only worked because you had pre-existing wounds she could exploit. That's what manipulative people do. They find your weak spots and press on them. She turned to me. Keisha, how are you feeling? Angry, I said. Hurt. Betrayed. Like 10 years of marriage meant nothing the minute his mother whispered poison in his ear. Those are all valid feelings. And Deshawn, you need to hear that. Really hear it. You didn't just make a small mistake. You fundamentally violated your wife's trust. I know. Do you? Because saying I know is easy. Understanding the full depth of the harm you caused, that's harder. So let me spell it out for you. You accused your wife of infidelity without evidence. You forced her to prove her innocence. You allowed your family to humiliate her. You made her feel like a criminal in her own marriage. That's not something you can just apologize for and move past. Deshawn was crying now. I know. I know what I did, and I hate myself for it. Hating yourself isn't productive. What is productive is doing the work to understand why you did it, and making sure you never do it again. The session ended with homework. Deshawn had to write me a letter detailing everything he was sorry for, with specific examples and acknowledgement of how his actions had harmed me. I had to write a letter detailing what I needed from him going forward. It took him 3 days to write his letter. When he handed it to me, his hands were shaking. I read it alone in our bedroom while he waited downstairs. Dear Keisha, it began. I don't know if words can ever express how sorry I am for what I did to you, but I need to try. I'm sorry for doubting you when you'd never given me a reason to doubt. I'm sorry for listening to my mother instead of trusting my wife. I'm sorry for making you prove your innocence like you were on trial. I'm sorry for every cold look I gave you, every time I flinched away from your touch, every night I slept on the couch instead of next to you. Every moment I made you feel like you weren't enough. I'm sorry for the day at my mother's house when I let her swab Jamal's cheek while you sat there humiliated. I'm sorry for not defending you. I'm sorry for not standing up to my mother and sister when they treated you like a suspect. I'm sorry for the weeks I barely spoke to you, for making you sleep alone in our bed while I wrestled with doubts I should never have entertained, for looking at our son like he was a stranger instead of the miracle we created together. Most of all, I'm sorry for not seeing what was really happening. My mother was projecting her own fear and guilt onto you. She was protecting her lie by making you look dishonest, and I was too blind or too afraid to see it. I know these apologies don't fix anything. Words are just words. But I want you to know that I see the harm I've caused. I understand that I broke something precious, and I will spend every day for the rest of my life trying to earn back what I destroyed. You are the most honest, loyal, loving person I know. You deserve better than what I gave you. And if you give me another chance, I will work every single day to be the husband you deserve. I love you. I've always loved you. Even when I was doubting you, even when I was being manipulated, even when I was at my worst, I loved you. And I will do whatever it takes to prove that love is real. Yours always, Deshawn. I cried reading it. Angry tears, sad tears, confused tears. Because the apology was good. It was thorough and specific and acknowledged the depth of the harm. But it didn't erase what had happened. Didn't take away the humiliation or the hurt or the broken trust. My letter to him was shorter, more direct. What I need from you. 1. Complete honesty. No more secrets. No more choosing your mother over me. 2. Respect for my truth. When I tell you something, you believe me. Period. 3. Boundaries with your family. Your mother doesn't get to manipulate you anymore, and if she tries, you shut it down immediately. 4. Consistent effort. Don't just say you've changed. Show me through your actions. 5. Time. Don't expect me to forgive you overnight, or even in a few months. This will take as long as it takes. 6. Therapy. Individual and couples. No excuses. 7. Protection. If anyone, family or not, disrespects me, you defend me. Always. 8. Patience. I'm going to have bad days. Days when I'm angry all over again. Days when I pull away. You don't get to be frustrated with me for that. 9. Work with Jamal. Our son was traumatized by this too. You need to repair that relationship. 10. Proof. Show me every single day that I matter, that our marriage matters, that you choose us. We read our letters to each other in Dr. Washington's office the following week. These are good starts, she said. But words are just words. Now comes the real work. And she was right. The real work was brutally hard. Over the next several months, we rebuilt trust, brick by painful brick. Deshawn started doing small things, making my coffee again in the mornings, leaving notes around the house, taking over more responsibilities with Jamal so I could have time for myself after my shifts. He started coming to Jamal's basketball games again. At first, Jamal was resistant, still hurt by his father's distance. But slowly, game by game, they found their rhythm again. One evening, I came home from work to find them in the driveway, shooting hoops together. Jamal was laughing at something Deshawn had said. and Deshawn was looking at our son with that old tenderness I'd thought was gone forever. "Nice shot, champ," Deshawn said as Jamal made a basket. "Thanks, Dad. Watch this one." Jamal attempted a three-pointer and missed spectacularly. Both of them burst out laughing. I stood in the doorway watching them and felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness yet, but something like hope. Dr. Washington gave us exercises, communication techniques, ways to check in with each other. One was called Vulnerability Hour. Once a week, we'd sit together and share something we were afraid to say. In one session, Deshawn said, "I'm afraid you'll never really forgive me. That we'll stay married, but you'll never love me the way you used to." "I'm afraid of that too," I admitted. "I want to forgive you. I want to move past this. But some days I look at you and all I can see is the man who accused me of cheating." "And other days?" "Other days I see the man I fell in love with, the man who makes me laugh, the man who gave me a son. And I think maybe we can find our way back to each other." "I hope so," he whispered. "Me too." There were setbacks, times when he'd say something thoughtless and I'd snap at him, all the old anger flooding back. Times when I'd pull away and he'd get frustrated, forgetting that healing takes time. But there were also breakthroughs. 3 months after the DNA test, I woke up to find Deshawn already awake, just watching me sleep. "What are you doing?" I mumbled. "Just looking at you, remembering how lucky I am." "You're creepy, is what you are." He laughed. "Sorry. Go back to sleep." But I didn't. Instead, I reached out and took his hand. It was the first time I'd initiated touch in months. "Hi," I said. "Hi yourself." "I'm still mad at you." "I know." "But I'm also, I don't know, less mad than I was yesterday." "That's progress." "Yeah, it is." We lay there in the early morning light, holding hands, and it felt like the first step towards something new. Not the relationship we used to have, that was gone. But maybe something different, something stronger. 4 months after the DNA test, Deshawn asked if he could sleep in our bed again. "I've been on that couch for 4 months," he said. "My back is killing me. And I miss you. I miss us." I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Okay," I finally said. "But just sleeping. Nothing else." "Just sleeping. I promise." That first night back in our bed, we lay on opposite sides, careful not to touch, like we were strangers sharing a space. But sometime during the night, I must have rolled toward him because I woke up with my head on his chest and his arm around me. I started to pull away, but he tightened his grip slightly. "Please don't," he whispered, still half asleep. "I've missed this so much." So I stayed. And we slept like that, tangled together, for the first time in 5 months. It felt like coming home. Meanwhile, the situation with Phyllis continued to deteriorate. Deshawn had told Tanisha about the adoption, about the DNA results, about everything. His sister had been devastated. She'd confronted Phyllis, demanded answers about her own birth parents, and when Phyllis had tried to deflect, Tanisha had cut her off completely. I can't trust anything she says, Tanisha told us over coffee one afternoon. My whole life is a lie. And the worst part? She doesn't even seem to understand why we're upset. She understands, Deshawn said. She just doesn't want to admit it. Are you ever going to forgive her? I don't know. Maybe. But not anytime soon. Phyllis had tried repeatedly to reach out. Letters, phone calls, showing up at our house unannounced. Each time, Deshawn turned her away. Not until you get real help, he'd tell her. Not until you understand what you did and why it was wrong. Finally, about 6 months after everything had exploded, Phyllis reached out through a therapist. She'd been in counseling twice a week, she said. She'd done the work. She wanted a chance to apologize properly. Deshawn didn't want to see her, but Dr. Washington suggested it might be good for his healing process. You don't have to forgive her, Dr. Washington said. But hearing what she has to say, having her acknowledge the harm, that might give you closure. So we agreed to meet, all three of us, me, Deshawn, and Phyllis, in Dr. Washington's office. Phyllis looked different, older, smaller, like carrying the weight of her lies had physically diminished her. Thank you for coming, she said quietly, not meeting our eyes. Talk, Deshawn said. His voice was hard, unforgiving. Phyllis took a shaky breath. I've been in therapy for 6 months now, twice a week, working through everything. And I've learned a lot about myself. None of it good. Go on. I've learned that I've spent most of my life terrified of being seen as inadequate, terrified of not measuring up, terrified of losing control. She finally looked up, tears streaming down her face. When I couldn't have biological children, I felt like a failure, like God was punishing me, like everyone who looked at me could see that I was broken. So you lied, I said. Yes, I lied. To everyone. To my husband, my friends, my church, and most importantly, to my children, because I couldn't bear the shame of admitting the truth. And when Deshawn wanted the DNA test, Deshawn asked, I panicked. I knew what it would show, and I couldn't let that happen. So I decided to redirect, to make it about Keisha's loyalty instead of my honesty. I started planting seeds of doubt, making comments, pointing out differences, hoping you'd either drop the idea or... Her voice broke. Or that somehow the truth wouldn't come out. You were willing to destroy my marriage to protect your lie. I was. And I can never apologize enough for that. She turned to me. Keisha, I owe you an apology too. I've never treated you the way a mother-in-law should. I've been critical, controlling, and cruel, and that was wrong. You're a good wife, a good mother, a good woman, and I should have told you that years ago instead of trying to tear you down. It was the first time she'd ever said anything like that to me. Thank you, I said carefully, but an apology doesn't undo the damage. I know, but I hope it's a start. Deshawn was quiet for a long time. Then, do you understand what you did to me? Finding out I'm adopted, that would have been hard enough. But finding out like this? Through a DNA test you pushed me to take? While you were trying to destroy my marriage? That's unforgivable. I know. You stole my identity from me, my medical history, my connection to my birth family, all because you were too ashamed to tell the truth. I know. And you made me doubt the woman I love, made me accuse her of something she didn't do, made me put her through hell. Phyllis was sobbing now. I know. I know what I did, and I will spend the rest of my life regretting it. Will you, though? Or will you just find a new way to manipulate and control? I'm trying to change. Trying isn't enough. I need to see real, sustained change before I even consider letting you back into my life. What can I do? Keep going to therapy. Work on your issues. Learn why you do the things you do. And maybe, in a year or two, we can talk about supervised visits with Jamal. A year? Or two. Or never. Depending on whether you actually change or just say you will. We left that session without making any commitments. Phyllis had said what she needed to say. We'd heard it. But forgiveness would take time, if it ever came at all. 1 year after the DNA test, things were different. Not perfect, never perfect, but different in a way that felt sustainable. Deshawn and I had rebuilt something. Not the old relationship, that was gone forever, but something new, something harder won, and maybe stronger because of it. We'd learned to communicate better, to check in with each other, to not let small things fester into big things. He'd learned to set boundaries with his mother, to recognize manipulation when it happened, to choose his wife over his family's dysfunction. I'd learned to trust again, not blindly, never blindly again, but enough to believe that he'd changed, that he'd learned from his mistakes. We still went to therapy, probably always would. It had become part of our routine, like date nights or Sunday dinners. Jamal had adjusted well, considering everything. He knew that Daddy had made a mistake, that Grandma Phyllis had lied about something important, that grown-ups sometimes mess up, but they can learn and grow. Are you and Daddy gonna be okay? He'd asked me one evening while we were cooking dinner together. I think so, baby. We're working on it every day. Good. I don't want you to get divorced like Aiden's parents. We don't want that either. That's why we're working so hard. And what about Grandma? Is she ever coming back? We'd let Phyllis see Jamal a few times over the past year. Brief visits, always supervised, always with strict boundaries. She'd been different in those visits, quieter, more respectful, actually listening instead of trying to control. Maybe, I said, when she proves she's really changed. I miss her, he admitted. Sometimes, even though she did bad stuff. It's okay to miss people who hurt us. Love is complicated like that. He thought about that while stirring the pot on the stove. Mama, can I tell you something? Always. I like it being just us three sometimes. You, me, and Dad. Without all the other stuff. I hugged him from behind, chin resting on top of his head. Me too, baby. Me too. That evening, after Jamal was in bed, Deshawn found me in the kitchen cleaning up. Can I help? He asked. Sure, you can dry. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then he said, I've been thinking about something. What? About finding my birth mother, my birth family, learning where I really come from. Yeah? Yeah. Not because Phyllis isn't my mother. She raised me. That counts for something. But because I want to know who I am, where I came from, medical history, all of it. I think that's a good idea. Will you help me? Of course. He put down the dish towel and pulled me into a hug. I let myself melt into him, breathing in his familiar smell. Sawdust and soap and home. Thank you, he whispered into my hair. For what? For not giving up on me, for fighting for us even when I didn't deserve it. You're worth fighting for, I said, even when you're being an idiot. He laughed. I was a massive idiot. Yes, you were. Am I still an idiot? A little bit. But you're my idiot. He pulled back to look at me. I love you, Keisha, more than I can ever express, more than I've ever been able to show you. I love you too, I said, and I meant it. Not the same way I'd loved him before. That innocent, trusting love was gone. But this love that had survived betrayal and doubt and pain, this love felt real in a way the old love never had. This love knew the worst of each other and chose to stay anyway. That night, we made love for the first time since the DNA test. It was tentative, careful, both of us relearning each other's bodies, but it was also sweet. And when it was over, we lay tangled together in our bed, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. 2 years after the DNA test, Deshaun found his birth mother. It had taken time, working with an adoption agency, DNA databases, private investigators, but eventually they'd found her. Her name was Jennifer. She lived in rural Georgia, about 2 hours away. She'd been 17 when she had Deshaun, white, scared, unable to keep a baby she knew she couldn't care for. Deshaun had written her a letter first, introducing himself, explaining that he wasn't angry, wasn't looking to disrupt her life, just wanted to know where he came from. She'd written back immediately, and they'd arranged to meet. I went with him. He'd asked me to, said he needed me there for support. We met at a diner halfway between our houses. Jennifer was in her 50s now, with gray-streaked hair and kind eyes that looked exactly like Deshaun's. "Hi," she said when she saw him, her voice shaking. "Oh my God, you're so tall." "Hi," Deshaun said, suddenly awkward. They sat down across from each other. I sat next to Deshaun, holding his hand under the table. "I don't even know where to start," Jennifer said. "The beginning?" Deshaun suggested. So she told him everything. About being 17 and pregnant and terrified. About her parents who'd wanted her to give him up. About holding him for just a few hours before the adoption agency took him away. "I thought about you every single day," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Every birthday, every Christmas, wondering where you were, if you were happy, if you were loved." "I was loved," Deshaun said. "My adoptive parents, they weren't perfect. My mother lied to me about a lot of things. But they did love me." "I'm glad. That's all I wanted for you." They talked for 3 hours. About medical history, about family traits, about his birth father, a boy Jennifer had dated in high school who disappeared when she got pregnant. By the end, they'd exchanged phone numbers, made tentative plans to see each other again. On the drive home, Deshaun was quiet. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, I think so. It's just weird. Meeting the woman who gave birth to me. She seems nice." "She does." "But she's not my mother. Phyllis raised me. For better or worse, she's my mother." "You can have both, you know. Jennifer as your birth mother, Phyllis as the woman who raised you. They're not mutually exclusive." "Yeah," he said thoughtfully. "I guess they're not." 3 years after the DNA test, we had a family dinner. Me, Deshaun, Jamal, who was 11 now and shooting up like a weed. My mother, who'd driven up from Birmingham. Deshawn's sister Tanisha and her husband Marcus, and for the first time in 3 years, Phyllis. She'd proven herself over those years, continued therapy, respected boundaries, actually changed instead of just saying she would. She'd written me a letter 6 months ago, a real apology, not asking for forgiveness, just acknowledging harm. "I know I can never undo what I did," she'd written. "I know I hurt you deeply. I know I almost destroyed your marriage and traumatized your son. And I'm sorry, more sorry than words can express. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I see you now, really see you, and I'm grateful my son has you." It was the letter I'd needed years ago, but I'd take it now. So when Deshawn asked if she could come to dinner, I'd said yes. She showed up with a pie, sweet potato, my favorite, and flowers for me. "Thank you for having me," she said at the door. "You're welcome," I said, and meant it. Dinner was actually pleasant. Phyllis was on her best behavior, complimenting my cooking, asking about my work, not making any passive-aggressive comments. At one point, Jamal said something funny, and we all laughed, and I looked around the table at this complicated, imperfect, hard-won family and felt grateful. Grateful for second chances, for healing, for forgiveness that came slowly but surely. After dinner, while everyone was having dessert, Phyllis asked to speak with me privately. We went out to the back porch. "I know I've said this before," she started, "but I need to say it again. I'm sorry. For everything. For how I treated you, for what I did to your marriage, for hurting Jamal. All of it." "I know," I said, "and I want you to know you're a good mother, a good wife, a good woman. My son is lucky to have you, and I should have said that 10 years ago." "Yeah, you should have." "Can you ever forgive me?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "I'm working on it," I said honestly. "Some days it's easier than others. But I think, eventually, yeah, I think I can." She wiped tears from her eyes. "That's more than I deserve." "Maybe, but it's what I'm offering." We stood there in the cooling evening air, and something shifted between us. Not friendship, probably never that, but maybe peace. Inside, I could hear Deshawn laughing at something Jamal said, could hear my mother telling one of her stories, could hear the sounds of family. "Come on," I said to Phyllis, "let's go back inside. Your pie's getting cold." 4 years after the DNA test, Jamal asked a question. "Dad, do you think about your birth mom a lot?" We were at the dinner table, just the 3 of us on a random Thursday night. Deshawn put down his fork. "Sometimes. Why?" "I don't know. I was just thinking about how Grandma Phyllis lied to you, and I wondered if you were still mad." "I was mad for a long time, but I'm not as mad anymore." "Why not?" "Because being angry takes a lot of energy, and I'd rather spend that energy on being happy, on appreciating what I have." Jamal considered that. "Do you see Jennifer, your birth mom, a lot?" "A few times a year. We talk on the phone sometimes. She sends me birthday cards." "Is it weird?" "A little, but also kind of nice, knowing where I came from, understanding my history." "And Grandma Phyllis? Are you still mad at her?" Deshawn glanced at me. I nodded slightly. "Not as much as I used to be. She hurt me, hurt all of us. But she's trying to be better. And I think people deserve second chances when they really work for them. Did she work for hers? Yeah, she really did. Jamal was quiet for a moment. Then, "Can I tell you something?" "Always." "I'm glad things got better. I like our family now." "Yeah?" "Yeah. We're not perfect, but we're us. And that's pretty good." Deshawn's eyes got misty. He reached across the table and ruffled Jamal's hair. "Yeah, champ. That's pretty good." Later that night, lying in bed, Deshawn turned to me. "You know what Jamal said earlier? About liking our family?" "Mm-hmm. I feel the same way. We went through hell. We almost didn't make it. But we did. And now I think we're stronger than we ever were before." "You think so?" "I know so. Because we know the worst of each other now. And we chose to stay anyway." I rolled over to face him. "That's true. We do know the worst. And I still choose you. Every day, even when you're annoying." "I'm not annoying. You're a little annoying." He laughed and pulled me close. "I love you, Keisha Thompson." "I love you too, Deshawn Thompson, or whoever you are. I'm me, finally, just me. And that's enough." "Yeah," I said, settling against his chest. "It is."